Hi, and welcome back to Building Pathways to Healthy Minds. I'm your host, Priscilla Bagley, and today we have one of our favorite people back on the podcast. It's mindfulness expert, Dr. Ann Friedman. Today we're going to talk about being with uncertainty, how our brain is constantly trying to protect us. And Dr. Friedman talked about how the only real certain thing in life is knowing that we don't know what's going to happen, and there will be uncertainty. So, what are we missing in life while we're being too busy worrying and being uncertain? So, today we're going to talk through some life changing strategies, such as training our brains to be less reactive by breathing, meditating, and being aware of our thoughts. That if we focus on what we're doing in the moment, we can let go of thoughts and be at peace. Safety is our number one need, and this leads us to love and connection. And our brain is trying to keep us safe all day. So we can talk to our brain before the spiral starts to happen. When we sit with uncertainty, we're accepting it, being friends with it, and allowing the uncertainty in our lives to be there, which actually breaks the power of anxiety and worry over our lives. So come sit with us, grab a cup of coffee, or get on the road, and let's talk about how we can sit with uncertainty and live in this perfectly imperfect world. All right, we are back today with Dr. Friedman. She was such a special guest last spring, and we talked all about mindfulness. It was so eye-opening, one of my favorite episodes. So hello, Dr. Friedman.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm glad to be here.
When we talked, there was so much to kind of go through. There was no way to get through it in one, podcast. So we said, let's come back. And what are some other topics with mindfulness that we could continue to unearth and unravel? And so today we're going to be talking a little bit about being with uncertainty, which is so funny. When you sent that to me as an topic, I thought, is that a typo? Like being with uncertainty. But no, we're going to kind of unwrap what that means, being with uncertainty and then calming big emotions. So why don't we just dive in? What do you mean by being with uncertainty?
So we live in uncertainty, right? So all day long, things are happening that we can't know. When
Yeah.
we walk out, when we get on the freeway, we can't know how the traffic's going to be. We can't know what the weather's going to do. Unfortunately, big events happen. I mean, there was a gunman yesterday in a building in Manhattan. And, those people in the lobby were going out the door, couldn't imagine. We
Mhm.
don't know. So life can happen and change in the blink of an eye, right? We can get a diagnosis that isn't what we expected. We thought we were healthy and find out we aren't. So we live with uncertainty every day,
Mhm.
and it's mostly manageable, right? We just know the traffic could be good or bad, or the weather could change, and we're prepared for it. Mostly we just hang in with it.
Yeah.
But when it comes to major threats, pandemics, wars, violence, health issues, economic issues, it gets a little bit more dicey for us and our brains react more, right? Because our very security is affected in these.
Yeah, and I think we talked last time about how our brain is wired to want to protect us.
Yes.
So I'm kind of tying that in with uncertainty, where when we feel those big things, I mean, for me, it can be even just a daily anxiety of what's going to happen today. And then my brain spirals into, let me figure out if I can control all the things. But when it's a big, big issue, what does our brain do in that moment?
Yeah, when it's a big issue, our brain goes on to overdrive, right? It
Mhm.
starts overthinking. It ruminates, continues to chew on something over and over and over again, attempting to get answers to what we cannot know. and we worry, we end up having stomach aches, headaches, all sorts of things because our entire nervous system is affected.
And so when we're just, that sounds almost impossible, just being with uncertainty, what do we do with our brains in those moments to just be?
To just be. So there are many, many practices we can use that mindfulness offers, okay?
Yeah.
So to just ruminate, like most of us feel like, and that's when we can't get a thought out of our mind. We just keep thinking, what's going to happen? Is this going to be okay? Is what, so what we're doing is noticing that there are ways that we can calm and I'll go through all of those today. There are lots of ways that we can begin to calm the brain. We also know that some people are more tolerant for uncertainty than others. So there have actually been, I think, something like 40 tests developed on intolerance of uncertainty.
Wow.
And there are people who absolutely just can't deal with it
Mm.
and tend to be super anxious and develop anxiety disorders of various types, right? Sometimes it can also lead to depression
Mm.
or PTSD and through trauma of the uncertainty of abuse and neglect and that kind of thing, where you're in PTSD mode. So we know this can lead to mental illness if you have great intolerance or you've lived with kind of threatening uncertainty that is literally affecting your safety every day.
Yeah, that would make sense. I really wish I was one of those people who was more tolerant to uncertainty. How do you become one of those people? Is that genetic disposition, or you observed your parents being emotionally regulated in uncertainty? Do you know? Is there?
I think the debate about nature and nurture will continue to go on forever.
Mhm.
What we do know is that people are born with certain temperaments, a little bit more laid back, a little bit less laid back, right?
Right.
And there's a biology at work there for sure. And what our parents modeled, right, of difficult situations. When we acknowledge the nervousness, it actually calms us down.
Mm.
It's paradoxical entirely.
Wow.
It's the minute we speak it, it's like, oh, and it's okay to be nervous.
And we've
The,
been here before,
and
and
we've
I
been,
was nervous then, and I got through it.
yeah,
Wow.
and I'll do it again,
Wow.
right? So yes, I think it can be both nature and nurture that can help us. And, parents that were less tolerant of flipping out and just super, super anxious and modeled that, kids really struggle then,
Feel it.
right? And
Absolutely.
are usually becoming the adult in the room trying to calm their parents down.
Right. Right. I talked about that in a different podcast about anxiety, where we don't want to make our kids fearful, but it can be sometimes hard because we do live in a society where it's like, be careful of that. Oh, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't, And so we can definitely cultivate that, I think, in our kids too.
Yes, we can. We
And,
can.
oh, everything's uncertain, and be nervous about that.
Yeah, yeah. And we don't want to give that message because generally everything is uncertain. And we,
Right.
but
It is.
we want a measure of believing and there's a normalcy that's going to happen here.
Yeah.
And in general, there is a normalcy, right? Of most days. It's just the odd days that something very dramatic happens. And it's those uncertainties and the big question marks, particularly when we think it's going to affect our lives. Am I going to get into law school? Am
Yeah.
I going to beat this diagnosis of cancer? Am I going to, something major? Generally is the most difficult for us.
So the practices you talked about, is that for just an everyday uncertainty, or is it for those big life moments of uncertainty?
Yeah, so I do teach mindfulness meditation,
Mm.
which is the practice of sitting and focusing on an object like breath or sounds in the environment. You can listen to birds and cars and just listen to sounds and have that be your object, or body sensations. And what we know is that we have 12 to 80,000 thoughts a day.
Right.
So thoughts are going to come through the mind, and what we're doing is becoming less reactive to them.
Mm.
Oh, there's a thought about what's going on at work. Just let it go. Come back to the sounds, back to my breath, whatever I'm focused on. Oh, there's a thought of, did I do that presentation well last week? Nope, I can't know that. I did it the best I could. Come back to my breath, come back to the sounds. So what we're doing is training the mind to be less reactive, and we see that happens. It actually grows key areas of the brain, including those involving emotional regulation. But
Wow.
what we also know is that most people aren't going to become meditators. They just aren't.
Yeah.
They just aren't. So there are other practices we can use too.
Ooh, I would love for you to tell me because I have tried meditating and there are times where I can do it, but sometimes even just like the pace of life doesn't allow you to sit there as often in uncertainty. So, okay, so two things. We'll get to the other ideas of practices, but in meditating, do you carve out a specific time? Like, do you start early in the morning doing this, or do you do it during the day? What does it look like?
Well, I'm blessed because I do it all day long with clients.
That's
So
awesome.
so I get to do it all day, every day because I know I need it. It's what helps me. But yes, I also, as I just told you, came back from a week-long silent retreat, and I also do it during the day on my own. I'm usually early morning, and I will often, if the weather permits, go onto my balcony. And
Mm,
I love to use breath and sound simultaneously. So a more open awareness, but I hear the birds in the back, and I listen to those and just notice the thoughts drifting through and continue to bring my mind back. That's the practice.
okay. Setting some time aside to really just
Yes.
do it.
And according to the research from the military that Dr. Amishi Jha has done, she sees changes in the brain in 12 and a half minutes a day. So it doesn't even take long.
Okay.
Um,
Is
to
that straight? 12 minutes straight?
we don't know.
Okay.
We don't know if you could break it up to like 6 and 6.5 or something like that. But what we do know is that if you do it continually, you'll see changes in the brain that are positive.
And just helping regulate yourself through the day. Your brain just kind of does that
Yes.
naturally.
Yes, and what happens is you start backing up from your thoughts. So we have this ability called metacognition,
Mm.
which is the ability to know what we just thought. To know, okay, I just had a thought about I've got to go buy milk. Okay, we can back up and observe our thoughts. As far as we know, other creatures don't have this.
Hmm.
So we have the ability to back up and observe our thoughts. And that really is what mindfulness meditation helps us do, is all day long we start noticing, because that's what we're seeing as we're meditating, our thoughts passing through. We're not going to stop the thought train. And that is one of the quick practices of just noticing. I can get really angry about this driver who just cut too close or whatever. Or I can notice, oh, I've done this before, and breathe and let it go.
Right. And even going deeper of why does that frustrate me? Oh, and I think we talked about this. Oh, that made me nervous. That made me scared. So my
Yeah,
reaction was get upset.
safety is our number one need,
Mm,
our number one need.
wow.
And it is the foundation of love and connection, which we also need. But if you don't feel safe with the person, you're not going to feel the love.
Yeah.
Safety is foundational. And so that is what our brain is trying to do, keep us safe all day long. And when somebody cuts in too close or swerves in a lane or whatever, they're talking, looking on their phone and not moving and doing what they need to do, we don't feel safe.
I like that you said that. I just did a training for teachers and we talked about reframing. I actually heard this from Dr. Becky Bailey, who does conscious discipline. She talked about how reframing good and bad behavior to safe versus unsafe behavior, because that goes along with what you said. If we will feel connected if we're being safe, and we can talk to kids about that, like, oh, was that choice a safe choice, and how can we do that better in the future?
Yes. And in fact, in mindfulness, we try to ditch the words good and bad
That's
because
smart.
what you think is good is not what I think is good. They are irrelevant, meaningless words,
Mm,
truly.
yeah.
We use the words more skillful and less skillful.
Okay, so let's dive into some more practices, because like I said, after our last podcast, I really have put more and more. I think, and that's part of it is maybe we'll never be perfect at this. Maybe we don't have, like, you get to practice it as much during the day. Maybe some of us won't get to do that, but the more we talk about it, we become more aware, mindful of mindfulness. So, what are some other practices for people who maybe, are just starting out, we're just learning, that we can do?
Yes. So when you have uncertainty, you're going to have a cortisol drop in your body, the stress chemical, maybe adrenaline's pumping too, and your body is going to get tense.
Mm.
That is what happens, right? So there are ways to process those stress chemicals. One is through vigorous exercise. That's the quickest way to get it out of your body.
Okay.
How do you feel after you really, work out? You're exhausted. Your body's letting go. It's just relaxed because it let go of all the stress chemicals. Crying can also process. How do you feel after a good to cry? You feel peaceful. But also breath work. And so the diaphragmatic breathing, long, slow, deep belly breaths where you breathe in perhaps for the count of 3, hold for 2, and you exhale for the count of 6. The exhale needs to be twice as long as the inhale
Okay.
to activate your system of rest and digest in the body. When you do 3 to 6 long, slow, deep breaths, it gives immediate relaxation for the body. Your blood pressure lowers. It facilitates your digestion. And you feel better. You're relaxed. It calms the mind.
Which would make sense with exercise as well, too. That
Yes.
you're that
Because
you're
you're
also
breathing.
breathing as you're, yeah, forcing you.
And there's another way to breathe, which is called box breathing. And you
Okay.
can find these on the internet, diaphragmatic and box breathing. Box breathing, you can breathe in for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. And you do that for about a minute. It's the one the military uses. And either one will activate the vagus nerve on your back, which is your parasympathetic nervous system of rest and digest. Breathing is helpful. We also know that any kind of physical touch that is comforting, rubbing our chests,
Hmm.
giving ourselves hugs, holding our hands. It sounds odd, but we know when someone else that we love hugs us, it releases oxytocin,
Yeah.
which is this, hormone that feels really good and how makes us feel connected, the love hormone, right? And it is also what we can do with our own touch when
Hmm.
we're giving ourselves self-compassion. So just if you're in a bad place, rubbing your chest and just talking to yourself with compassionate words can also just bring the body system down.
That is so great. And I think, especially working with children, if we could teach them to give themselves a hug, talk to themselves in kind ways, self-compassion. I think there's part of us that just understands from life experience that these things work. And our bodies know, they know how to protect themselves, in some ways, which is also why they get so anxious. And then we know the ways to calm that, I think, just innately. What are some of the most common mistakes you see people make when trying to get rid of uncertainty or strong emotions?
Yeah, so one of the things is that they can overthink.
Mm,
So literally drive themselves crazy, and I've done that. That's what led to my panic attacks is I could not turn my brain off. And so this overthinking can literally just make you nuts. I mean, make you nuts. And it's not helpful because there weren't good answers. I didn't know what was going to happen with my health. It took time to just sort of resolve the issues, right? I didn't have ready answers.
So
So
yeah, go
overthinking
ahead.
is one of the things we do, and it's not helpful.
So when you're faced with something really big, something just falls in your lap, it was bad news, um, maybe it's a health diagnosis or something. How do you stop your brain from wanting to just get online to figure it out, to make all the decisions? How do you stop that?
Yes. So one of the things I have done, and I have been a keynote speaker at a cancer conference, is say, do not get onto Dr. Google
Right.
because honestly, you are going to hear worst case scenarios.
Hmm.
And it is going to make things worse. Our brain already tends to go to the negative
Hmm.
more than it does the positive. We know this through science.
Yep.
And you start imagining this could happen, that could happen. And you can't know any of that is true. The brain is trying to give you answers to what it cannot know, and they are usually negative and not helpful.
Mm.
So, one of the first things we want to learn to do is talk back to our brain.
Okay.
Brain, thank you very much. I know you're trying to be helpful, but you're jumping to conclusions that you don't have evidence for. You can't know this.
Right.
And I know that there are many people, for example, that, have survived this. So,
So kind of taking it one day at a time and saying,
yes.
I can only see today, and that's going to have to be enough. I
Yeah.
like that you said that because being with uncertainty is not hiding under a rock and pretending nothing bad is happening.
No. And in fact, if we try to resist it and not admit I'm scared,
Mm,
I'm frightened, this is scary. It actually what we resist persists and enlarges. We're
mm,
going to get more anxiety.
yeah.
The minute we say, "Oh, wow, this causes anxiety. This causes worry."
Mhm,
Yeah, I wish I could know these, but I can't. But just acknowledging that will calm you down. It's
mm.
paradoxical entirely.
It's almost that self-compassion. It's giving yourself permission to say it's okay what I'm feeling, and
Yes.
also I can't fix it by continuing to worry. But when we just pretend it's not there, then it's growing and growing and growing.
And it usually comes out sideways.
Hmm.
They explode about something, but it's not what we're really upset about.
And I think that's part of that, you know, talking about how being with uncertainty sounds like it's a typo or a mess up, but really it's almost like I picture being, because when you say being with someone, it's almost like you're accepting your friends. Being with uncertainty, it's almost like you're making friends with uncertainty.
Yes, we are. And we also know that it's good for our brain.
Mm,
And why we know that is because it ultimately can make us more creative and
mm.
flexible in life. It doesn't have to be this way.
So that being with uncertainty, almost making friends with it, actually trains our brains to be creative and flexible
Yeah,
and roll with things.
how am I going to make this work? What can
Hmm.
I learn from doing something entirely different?
Okay, so going back into that emotional regulation, because it all ties into each other, right? Mindfulness. But can you explain the connection between mindfulness and emotional regulation with that piece of uncertainty in there as well?
So we know it develops areas of our brain which are newer in terms of memory, the prefrontal cortex areas of decision making, impulse control, judgment, and emotional regulation areas actually thicken in the brain from doing meditation.
Wow.
But it can also happen, we think, of just using daily life activities to stay focused and bringing your mind back. Noticing, oh, I'm in the middle of cooking right now, and I'm just exploring what I'm cooking here. I love the colors. And then I think, oh, what happened at work today? Nope. Right now, I'm just focused on the cooking.
Okay.
You are training your brain, is what you're doing, even there,
Hmm.
to stay focused and let go of thoughts. So be less reactive to thoughts. Our mind, we don't know where thoughts come from. They
Yeah.
come from all sorts of things, environmental cues, biological cues, just all sorts of things. We just don't know. They pop into our brains unbidden.
Mm.
And sometimes we need to be responsive to them, right? We
Yeah.
do need to be responsive, but other times we don't.
Yeah.
So if I'm sitting there cooking, but I'm thinking about something that bothered me at work, it's not the time to be thinking about it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm cooking. Let me focus on this in this moment. On the other hand, if I'm cooking, but I've got, a child in the bathtub that needs help,
Right. Right.
I need to go, right? So some, sometimes we do need to break
Yeah.
focus.
But it's more those like, I feel like I have made it a habit now of not focusing on one thing, and I think just life and technology and busyness has fed into that where I almost can't attend to one thing. It's not life threatening, it's nothing big, but it's if I don't do that right now, I'm going to forget it. And then that leads to something else, which leads to something else. And do you think the healthier way would be to say, it's okay if that gets forgotten? Right now, I need to be here.
Or just write it down really
Yeah.
quickly so you don't. Have a little tablet near you where you can write down dryer and
Okay.
you come back to cooking, just so you remember to do that. But I would really invite all mothers to put their phones away. I am
Mhm.
sorry, we do not need to be connected 24/7. We just don't.
Yeah.
It's not healthy for any purpose. But we do not need these phones all the time with all of the texting and interruptions and
I think it
nor
has definitely created this thing where it's always at our fingertips, right? So we can always think about, oh, I need to see that one thing, or I need to look this up, or I need to, and then we
yes.
do that in real life, even when we're not using technology. It's like our brains are not, we have not wired them well to attend to what's in front of us.
Yes, we don't even see what's in the room with us
Hmm.
half the time. We don't even notice objects. We're just oblivious.
Yeah.
And yes, becoming more aware of environments and whatever's critical.
I just think for me too, even knowing this, it is such a hard practice to really be mindful of what I'm thinking and just focus on the present. Is there anything you've done to help with that at all?
So when I started, I had sticky notes everywhere. I got one of those little sticky notes and I would put, "Where are you?" or "breathe," or just little notes to myself. I had them on my steering wheel, my mirror, in my closet, on my computer. I mean, I had them everywhere. And I'm sure my husband was going, "This is weird," but it helped me
Yeah.
because otherwise we're creatures of habit. We
Mhm.
just don't remember.
Until that becomes a practice that we do often, we need to be reminded, hey, put the phone down, or it's okay if you don't get to everything right now.
Yeah.
Focus on what you're doing.
And we know when we focus on what we're doing, we get relaxation in the body because usually what we're doing is okay,
Yeah.
right? This
And
moment's
we're
calm.
okay. So, for parents and caregivers, how can we model healthy emotional regulation for our children during uncertain times?
Boy, I think when children get to a certain age where they have some understanding, you can actually talk to them about your process.
Mm.
You could say, I'm a little anxious right now because I'm wondering about this. But mommy knows that, I had a big question mark about this in the past, and it was okay.
Mm,
it resolves, and I know that there are many different options. So if my first choice doesn't happen, there'll be other good choices,
mm,
right? So you can actually talk to them about how it's okay to be flexible. It's okay to see there's more than one option in things. There always is. And the words of compassion always are the ones that help me, which is you are who you are, perfectly imperfect,
mm. Yeah.
just like everyone else. You're doing the best you can, and that's all you can do. Everything is ups and downs, and sometimes we're more skillful, sometimes less. You're going to be as skillful as you can be. You've had challenges before where you messed up. You did fine. You got through them somehow, right? I just speak to myself in rational ways. This too shall pass, and just I calm myself by just saying things that are all true. There's
Right.
nothing I'm saying that isn't true. And it just calms my nervous system,
But our
right?
brain spirals
Yes,
to the
our
negative,
brain and personalizes things that aren't personal.
which would be so great if we could teach kids that from an early age.
Yes,
Um, we don't know why that happened, but it could be, something going on, or it could be nothing. The person
right.
maybe didn't even know that, and I think we talked about that in the last podcast. They didn't say good morning this morning. Well, they maybe didn't even know that that's what they did. And we take it as, oh, we did something wrong automatically.
Or they're feeling really badly. They're having a really bad day, and that's why they didn't say hello. They're all
Exactly.
wrapped up in themselves, and we don't think about, are they okay? They're
Right.
usually friendly. I wonder if they're okay.
Yeah.
We
It's,
make it about our story. And it's again that safety thing. It's
yes,
hugely hardwired. And fear of, oh, they're mad at me. They don't like me. That's not
I'm unsafe.
I'm unsafe.
And I wonder yeah, I think so much of mindfulness is reminding our brains that it's safe.
Yes, we are. By challenging the thoughts, you can't know that. Instead, why don't you see if they're okay?
Yeah.
Just going back but we can only do that if we notice what we're thinking
Hmm.
and aren't wrapped up in it. We can back up and go, oh, that's an interesting thought.
Mm,
So that's the main thing we're doing with mindfulness is separating from our thoughts a bit, giving them space,
yeah.
observing them.
A quote that I kind of came up with when I was thinking about this was, why do our strongest emotions often feel like they're in control? And how can we take that power back? And I think that's what we're talking about today is um, it's not about pushing down our emotions or controlling it. It's more about starting at the root of where the thoughts are and what caused those emotions. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, so we know the body is emotionally reactive even before we have the thoughts, but the thoughts then add to them big time. And what we're doing is noticing it's a chemical download to a stimulus.
Hmm.
Do I have to react this way? I'm believing something that I can't know is true.
Yeah.
No. Can I bring myself compassion? Can I calm the thoughts? Can I question the thoughts? Can I breathe?
Hmm.
And to just begin to let go a bit. And then, to be more flexible
Hmm.
through it, creative. Okay, so if this doesn't work, how am I going to handle that? How can I handle that? In a really positive way. And so one of the things you can do is notice, okay, what am I do? Is it because I don't have enough information? I have contradictory information. I have noisy information. I have all this other stuff going on and I don't know which things are pertinent in it.
Hmm.
What's going on is it that's causing the uncertainty or the fear of moving forward?
Okay.
Just, stepping back and just noticing. you
Okay.
know. Yeah, you can't know that. So it's
And
stop.
in noticing, because it's almost like a physical heaviness. Do you
Mhm.
find, because I know we've talked about, we both have had anxiety and things. Do you notice in you when you have that physical heaviness that, oh gosh, this almost like doom, oh, this is just going to be bad. When you step back and you think through your thoughts and you have self-compassion, do you kind of feel that lifting? Does it happen automatically? Is it just something you work through the day? How do you deal with that?
So if I deal with it instantaneously, I would say, mind, you can't know it's going to be bad. I remind myself of a time when my brain thought the same thing and it wasn't true.
Okay.
It helps me to remember because then I can really say, you can't know it here either.
Yeah.
Then bringing my breathing and bringing myself the compassion. I'm going to do the best I can do. That's all I can do.
What is the one thing from today's conversation you'd want to make sure somebody heard?
Yeah, don't let uncertainty become your enemy.
Mm.
Don't. You can be with this. There are ways to be with it, and you can, in fact, make it your friend for more flexibility and creativity in your life.
Ooh, that is a good word. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, well, until next time, thank you so much. I learned so much every time we talk.
I love our conversations. Thank you for
I
having
appreciate
me.
it. I appreciate it so much. Whew, sitting with uncertainty is definitely not easy. It takes practice, it takes effort. And like Dr. Friedman said, we can actually view it as a friend as we give up control and needing to know with certainty that everything will be okay. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation as much as I did. You can leave us comments or questions because we'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. And on our next episode, we will talk to Missy Hills, parent, engineer, and leader in the Red M organization, which fights human trafficking. We will talk about how we can nurture assertiveness and safety in our own families and communities. Until then, stand strong, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.